speak before you today about the purchase of the Roper building for our new Burney branch library. I'm Pat Pell, President of FOIL, Friends of the Intermountain Libraries, commonly called FOIL. The documentation given to you last week details all aspects of how a new library can be purchased with the $400,000 set aside by the Hatchet Ridge Urban Project. This money was meant to go to the betterment of Burney, offering a newer, bigger, more accessible public building open to every citizen at no cost would do just that. FOIL board members have spent a number of years looking at potential properties around the Burney area. There are a number of limitations. Most of the properties available are in a floodplain, as is most of Burney. The Roper building is not in the floodplain because a few years back it was remodeled and raised above the floodplain. So it's very doable. From a county perspective, they would not consider purchasing something in the floodplain, as probably none of us would. In May of 2019, an appraisal was done on the Roper building, located at 37116 Main Street in Burney. So all interested parties knew whether or not this idea was even in the realm of possibility. The Roper building has been remodeled and brought up on the floodplain issue. It also offers something most properties in Burney doesn't, which is parking. We take it for granted down here, but up there, the old building, which is 50 years old, has 2 to 5 parking spaces on the public street. The Roper building will offer 15 to 22. I've read both numbers in different reports, and it's all off-road parking. So this is important. It's also important to note that the Roper building is 4,200 square feet as opposed to the 1,800 in our current branch library. At our last meeting with the board in September of 17, we were given specific requirements by you that needed to be met before the purchase of a larger space for the Burney branch library. In good faith, FOIL has worked hard in collaboration with the county, the city, and FOIL to meet the requirements. And these requirements were: number 1, complete our capital campaign to raise enough money to complete the project. We've done this. You have before you bank statements showing over $100,000 raised by the community of Burney and its supporters. In addition, there's another $134,000 partially realized and partially promised, but agreed upon to be used once the county makes a decision to purchase the building. These funds are in alignment with the budget set by the county. The work to bring the building to the necessary standards will be done in collaboration with the county, the city, and FOIL. The second item was to demonstrate... Yes.
I'm going to allow you to finish, but your 3 minutes are up, so I'm going to let you finish, but I'm going to remind the rest of the speakers that just because we have a lot of speakers,
I understand.
I need to hold you to 3 minutes, so if you have a script, you're going to want to stay on it to make sure you get your 3 minutes, but go ahead and finish.
Mr. Moody, I appreciate that. When I spoke with your clerk of the board, I was informed I would be given 8 minutes for my lead presentation.
Well, I was told this morning that instead of the 8-minute presentation, we have 11 speakers, each doing 3 minutes.
We have 9, and I have a few more minutes if I may be so. I was informed incorrectly, apparently, that just this morning we spoke, and I was led to believe we had requested a 10-minute presentation by me. I have time down to 6.
Okay, we'll go ahead and finish.
Thank you. The second point was community's investment in this project. Over 1,500 people have signed a petition in support. Stories are plentiful around town about what's going to happen when this goes into effect. The third thing was the need for a newer, larger building. The value of the public library system in America cannot be overstated. Study after study have been done highlighting the increase in community involvement and interaction and growth of understanding between community members with a strong library service system. Community involvement will only be enhanced by a much larger main area, separate rooms, which we do not have now, for lessons, counseling, discussion groups, studying, and reading. Having a safe, warm public environment filled with computers, etc., is much needed, including an experienced, trained librarian. Many of you have experience working with the youth of today, our future. Libraries show the endless choices and possibilities available as a choice to them. and helps them become contributing members of our community. Through grants like the Seroptimus of the Burney area and 2 very generous grants by the Rotary Clubs, there will be a dedicated early childhood literacy area. Burney has no public meeting spaces. It's an unincorporated area, so this larger public space is even more valuable to us. I know Shasta County values its library system, as evidenced by its continued support for our 3 libraries now in operation. By purchasing the larger building with the money awarded by the Hatchet Ridge Wind Project, not through taxation, not taken away from other projects, Shasta County will be honoring what has been perceived as a promise to the people of Burney, as well as an investment in the future of the Intermountain area. So all the requirements have been met. FOIL has paid in over $100,000 over the years, raised with funding and constant commitment to support our library system. Our fundraising will continue with renewed enthusiasm. After so much time and effort has been spent raising money, raising awareness, and raising support, the purchase of this building will be a badge of honor, showing the culmination of collaboration between FOIL, Shasta County, and the City of Reading, which is as it should be. Shasta County's mission statement reads, Shasta County meets the needs of our community through collaborative services provided with courteous, efficient professionalism while ensuring public trust. The purchase of the Roper building for relocation of the Burney Branch Library exemplifies each and every one of these ideals.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Do you have a question for Supervisor Baugh?
Thank you, Chairman Bodie, and thank you for the excellent presentation. Well done. You mentioned 130,000 additional possibly available. Could you expand on that use or limitations of the use of that money?
Yes.
Where it's from?
The majority of it is a $100,000 grant agreed upon from the McConnell Foundation, who has agreed to pick up any shortfall in the building process, and once the building is purchased, moving it into usage. So that's the main one. The 34 comes from 7,500 from Shasta Regional Community Foundation, which we already have in a contractor's account for building purposes, and then 25,000 is from the Rotary, both 10,000 local from Burney, as well as 15,000 from the International, which I understand was generated by a gentleman in San Francisco who may never see our library, but feels so strongly how important this is, particularly to rural areas like ours.
And that's a good feeling. Congratulations. Are any of those funds currently showing the balances provided to us? We showed 100,000 as you mentioned.
No.
So that's in addition.
That's in addition to the 100,000 is money in our 2 accounts at U.S. Bank. The community, that's in the bank right now. 7,500 is in the bank from Shasta Regional. The others are waiting to see what happens.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I think it's a great time.
Thank you. Anna Tracy, followed by Kim Needham.
Good morning, Supervisors, and thank you for having us today. My name is Anna Tracy, and I'm the Director of the Shasta Public Libraries, which includes Reading, Anderson, and of course the Burney Library, which is what we're here to talk to you about today. I just wanted to start with a story about the kind of impact that this Burney Library has in its community currently. Just this month, we were helping a man who came into the Burney Library who's getting his degree online. He doesn't have regular access to high-speed internet, so he's been using the Burney Library wholly for his studies. He had to take a proctored exam, which required him to be in a room alone. For those of you who've been to our Burney Library, it is only one room with several closets off of it, as well as a restroom, so there was no place for him to take his proctored exam. Our staff didn't feel that that was right, so they made sure he got set up in the break room on a boat truck. He had to show his camera around to show he was alone in the room, but he was able to take his exam there. Our staff are willing, we're wanting, there's a lot of services that we could expand upon in a facility that was upgraded and larger and provided space for anonymity, which is a huge part of what we do in libraries. It's providing equal access to information and keeping people's information private, because that's really the whole premise the public library is built upon. Some of the services that we'd really like to see in this new facility that our current facility doesn't really allow us to expand upon is adult literacy. It's a want in the Intermountain community, as well as veteran services, another want in the Intermountain community, both of which require private meeting spaces, places where we can have one-on-one tutoring. It's not out in the middle of the library, as oftentimes there are insecurities that come along with reaching out for those resources. Those are two areas we really see being able to expand our current services at the Burney Library. Another area that Pat already mentioned would be this designated early childhood literacy space that the Rotary so graciously granted the funds for. We've found both at the Anderson branch and at the Reading branch that a designated children's space has increased our attendance for children's programs. It's also allowed us to push our reading incentive programs, which are all free, and all built and structured around pushing that needle in Shasta County. So if we're investing in our children, we're investing in the future. So as we look at this proposition of a new Burney Library building, I just really like to impress upon you the importance of having sufficient space to be able to provide these resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Kim Niemer, followed by Monty Key.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. So my job in this, I'm Kim Niemer, Director of Community Services for the City of Reading. And I'm excited because this is really a lot of work that has come together and a real community collaboration. And so I think we put together a fairly thorough presentation for how everything would work out. My job is I'm the contract administrator for the library. Operations would be to kind of check in at every step of the way to make sure that this collaboration was working and the tasks that were assigned were being accomplished. This is a role that I have played many times in Parks and Recreation projects, and some of them that you might be familiar with is Fantasy Fountain, twice, Kids Kingdom, the Lake Reading Gazebo, the T.R. Woods Park Makeover, Caldwell Junior Bike Park, Clover Creek Fly Fishers Clubhouse, etc. So this is a role that I'm very comfortable with. We have aligned the right resources to make it happen, the partnerships with the different players. We have a number of off-ramps available to the county, so if this work isn't performed, the interior work isn't performed satisfactorily, that's to be done before escrow closes, so there would be an opportunity to either pull out or to extend that until that work was done. The other issue I wanted to assure you of is that the contract that we have with the city and the county for funding in the libraries, 40-year agreement, some of the risks that you may be concerned about is really already addressed in that contract. So this library will be bigger, so we anticipate that there may be a higher utility cost. We're not sure exactly because the existing building is very inefficient because it's old. But that is in the contract. So if there's overages, that's really my problem and Burney's problem to resolve, in addition to the janitorial costs. So we are prepared to address those as they come. And really, I would just want to encourage you. I think we've put together a very thorough, where each partner is doing what they do best in this effort, and assuring you that I will be there every step of the way to make sure that those commitments are maintained and that funding is available to complete it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. Monty Key, followed by Bill Murray.
Good morning, Chairman Moody, as well as the board, staff, and public. My name is Monty Cady, and I'm the Burney Fire Chief. I was asked to inspect the proposed building, and I'm here to say that it meets all of Burney Fire Code requirements, with the exception of the rear exit. The back ramp is not ADA compliant, but this can be remedied with a sign that states for emergency exit only. The steepness of the ramp is not quite in compliance by just a couple of inches. It is made of concrete, and the cost of renovating it might be not worth just putting the sign up and having people come in the front door where the handicap exit is already. Now, can I talk to you for a moment about how a vibrant library can actually help Burney Fire District as the ambulance provider? Literacy poverty and healthcare are actually linked. The American Journal of Public Health showed that low literacy costs our nation over $230 billion with a B dollars a year just in healthcare costs. The Burney area has a high poverty level, and statistically, 82% of the students from low-income families cannot read with a proficiency. But it gets worse. Without these skills, by the 4th grade, students are 4 times less likely to graduate on time. And every student who leaves high school without a diploma can cost society up to $260,000 alone. The Journal of Community Health studied thousands of 911 calls over a year and proved a correlation between poverty and the high use of 911 for EMS. Now, the library of the future is not just a depository of books. It's a community space. It's a safe place for children to gather, to explore wonders and connect with the world. It's a place for adults to learn or to give back by teaching or volunteering to read to kids. It's a place to spark imagination and lead to a better education and career choice for kids. It's a place to excite the mind and provide fulfillment. And I'd like to leave you with a story, a personal story, someone I know. As an adult, this person, her name is Icy. I'll just share that with you. She chose last year to learn to read as an adult. Now you might say, well, that's wonderful, that's great. But what's important to note is that last week, I attended her 101st birthday. Last year, she chose to learn to read.
So Chief, I had a question for you.
I'm sorry for what?
Good story.
I dropped the mic a lot.
I know. You did a mic drop. And I know this is probably a small matter, but you mentioned that the ADA exit and the possibility of sign rather than improvements. Did you happen to check with county acquisitions for buildings and ownership in the county as whether that also satisfied our responsibility in terms of ownership of buildings and our county fire marshal and our public works director for properties?
So within the fire district of Burney, I do not talk to the county fire marshal. For buildings, I'm the sole for fire-related issues. As far as the county acquisition, I cannot speak to the county.
Great, thank you. We'll follow up on that. I appreciate it.
Okay, Bill Murray, followed by Willie Rodriguez.
Good morning. My name's Bill Murray, and I'm a member of FOIL. My wife is the treasurer of FOIL. We retired to Burney 4 years ago and have been impressed with the support the local citizens, the local businesses and organizations have had from the community. When the local theater needed to upgrade to digital to stay in business, or when the community pool needed to be upgraded, the citizens of the Intermountain area stepped up to raise the funding required. The citizens have also stepped up to raise the funding needed for a new library building in Burney. The community has raised over $110,000 in order to acquire and move the library to a larger and more central location. In addition, FOIL has received funding and support from McConnell Foundation, Rotary Club, Sir Optimist, and other groups. While the amount of money and support we have already raised will be adequate to set up the library in a new building, I would also like to note the ongoing support the library can expect from the community. With the regular fundraising activities of FOIL, we are on track to raise well over $12,000 each year. If any special needs should arise, FOIL will be able to step in with additional fundraising. In addition, a larger library will provide multiple volunteer opportunities that the current library does not allow us at this time. Activities such as book clubs, tutoring, homeschool meetings, classes on using computers, cell phones, and that type of stuff. This additional support can be provided to the Intermountain area without additional cost to the county by approving the plans for a new library that provides space for these activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Willie Rodriguez, followed by Lola Harris.
Good morning. My name is Willie Rodriguez, and I'm the manager of the Burney Water District, president of the Burney Chamber of Commerce, director of the Burney Fall River Education Foundation, and the past president and active member of the Rotary Club of Burney Fall River, who I'm representing today. I'm also a college graduate with a Bachelor's of Science in Physics from Sonoma State University, an Associate of Arts from Shasta College, and a high school diploma from Burney High School. But before all that, I was a young boy growing up in the town of Burney. One of my favorite memories from youth growing up in Burney was the day of my literary independence. Now, my mother read books to my older sister and I often, and she took us to the Burney branch of the Shasta County Library regularly. She found books for us that were appropriate to our age and our reading ability. As we grew older and mastered the ability to tell time, look both ways before crossing, and ride our bikes without crashing, we were given the freedom to ride over to the library without her. On my first solo, no-mom visit to the library, I ventured out of the children's book section and searched for books about haunted houses and ghosts. Thanks in large part to the previous night's ghost theme episode of In Search Of, narrated by Mr. Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy. Our librarian, Mrs. Connie Kleckler, observed my futile search on the shelves and introduced me to the card catalog, Dewey Decimal System, and explained the difference between fiction and nonfiction books. Soon I was riding home with a fantastic book on haunted houses with the most mind-bending photograph of what may have been a ghost floating down the stairwell of a haunted mansion. The Burney Branch Library offered me the freedom to choose what I wanted to read and fed my curiosity about my world. It did this without concern for what family I was from, where in town I lived, or how much money my family made. In its new location in the center of Burney, it will take its rightful place as a lighthouse of literacy in our community, and will continue to provide a beacon to a better future for all those who walk through its doors seeking knowledge, like that young boy looking for ghosts back in the 1970s. The members of the Rotary Club of Burney Fall River would like to pay forward our legacy of literacy. Rotary clubs all over the world are focusing their service efforts to promote basic education and literacy, maternal and child health, and economic and community development. As part of this effort, our club applied for and was awarded a grant in 2016 to fund the development of the Rotary International Children's Corner at the future location of the Burney Branch Library. The grant of $10,000 is matched by a $500 contribution from the Rotary Club of Mount Shasta and a contribution of more than $12,000 from the Rotary Club of Burney Fall River. The grant will provide for book and storage shelves, children's tables and chairs, and themed flooring for the Children's Corner. The Children's Corner will be a designated space offering opportunities for new year-round activities and programs without interrupting normal library activities. The Rotary grant funds are meant to be used within a year of the grant award, and special exceptions have been made to allow these funds to be held in anticipation of the purchase of the new library building. It is unclear how long these exceptions will continue to be made. It is my hope that the Board of Supervisors will allow me and my Rotary Club to pay forward our legacy of literacy by moving forward with the acquisition of the building today. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Burney Fall River, thank you for your consideration and your service to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Lola Harris, followed by Andrew Burney.
Good morning. I am Lola Harris. I have been living in Burney since 1960, and I have always used the library. I was a member of FOIL when it started, and I am a great supporter of the library. However, I am here representing Shore Optimist International of Burney Fall River. We are very dedicated to seeing that this project is completed, and we had given our original donation or pledge, and they just recently decided that we needed to give more. So they gave additional $2,000 to be used for the children and young adults section. The Burney Library is too small for what the needs are for our community, so please think about how it's going to affect our community in the future. And I think it would be a wonderful thing to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Andrew Burney, followed by Fanny Cole.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Early. I love to read. I'm here to support a new library in Burney. I live in Burney. 8 years ago, I retired after 32 years in law enforcement. Thanks to the Shasta County Library System, I've been able to reach my goal of reading over 50 books a year. The current Burney Library is too small, and we've vastly improved to hold more books. I often have to order books and wait weeks for their arrival. Plus, the library is closed or inaccessible in bad weather because of its out-of-the-way location. A new Main Street location is ideal. A lending library does not work. I often read a series of books by the same author in the order they were written. They make more sense. Being part of the Shasta County Library System, my librarian can order me any book ever written. You can find classic or specialty books. This is not possible without being a part of the Shasta County Library System. I'm not opposed to digital books. However, contrary to what most people or many people believe, is that most books are not available digitally. I'm not a Luddite. I have a smartphone and an iPad, and I use them extensively. Still, I love to hold and read a physical book. I also enjoy audiobooks. When I retired, I opened a small business. I checked out 4 books from the library to get started. My business is still going well for 7 years. Uncle Tom's Cabin gave me a whole new perspective of prejudice. Clive Cussler, Jack London, and Ernest Hemingway have taken me on travels throughout the world. I read the story of the Wright brothers. Orville and Wilbur Wright owned a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio. Wilbur was bedridden with scarlet fever for 6 weeks. Orville checked out a book in the library called Avionics to read to Wilbur. After reading it, Wilbur said, "Hey, maybe we could use our bicycle shop and our mechanical skills to build a flying machine." A single book changed their lives, and that invention changed the world. As much as I support law enforcement, investing in a new library is a better investment. Law enforcement is reactive. Things have already gone bad. Libraries are proactive. They provide opportunities for growth and improvement. They make the world a better place. To make Shasta County a better place, we need to invest more in libraries. And perhaps our problems with homelessness and crime in jails will diminish. The Shasta County Library has helped me tremendously. I would like to see other people have the same opportunity. I truly believe that if everyone in America read Uncle Tom's Cabin, there would be no prejudice in this country. A good book can change the way we think, the direction we go in life. They change lives. Perhaps there are a couple of young Wright brothers in Burney right now checking out a book at the library. Or a young Harriet Beecher Stowe who wants to change the world. Maybe there's an older retired guy who needs to read up on how to open a small business. There are so many possibilities when we have a library.
Thank you, Mr. Early.
Good morning. My name is Fran Collier. I am a member at large on the Foyle Board of Directors. Thank you so much for your time and attention to this project. You've heard from previous speakers about the benefits that a newer, larger, and more centrally located library can provide to our community and the Intermountain area. This library will be so much more than a repository of books, as you have heard. We are ready to start the new library now. We have a willing seller. We have a work plan to bring the facility to county standards. We have a budget, and we have more than enough funding to complete the project. In addition, we've met the county requirements as set forth for using the library funds set aside from the Hatchet Ridge Wind Project. It is my understanding that this money can be used only for capital improvement projects, and the library will certainly benefit our community as one of these improvement projects. We are asking today that you approve the project, open escrow, and formalize a working agreement between the county, city, and Foyle to make this library a reality. I leave you with the thought that strong libraries build strong and healthy communities. We are ready to strengthen our community. Thank you for your consideration. Good morning. I'm Carolyn Salini, a resident of Reading, who does not use the library in Burney. But I firmly believe that all residents of Shasta County are entitled to adequate library facilities and services. The present Burney Library building is much too small. Residents of Reading and Anderson all have the use of adequate library facilities, while the residents of the Burney area do not. After the Reading Library moved into its present large facility, the library usage tripled. Something similar would undoubtedly occur in Burney. I would like to read a quote from the California Education Code, section 19300. Quote, "The legislature further declares the public library is a supplement to the formal system of free public education and a source of information and inspiration to persons of all ages, and a resource for continuing education and re-education beyond the years of formal education, and as such deserves adequate financial support from government at all levels. I implore you to grant the funds needed to purchase this very suitable building in Burney while it is still available. This is an opportunity that should not be missed. Thank you very much."
Thank you, Mrs. Sling. Yeah, Steve Woodman.
I'm Steve Woodrum. I'm a resident of the city of Reading. Board of Supervisors, county staff, and interested public, thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Intermountain Library. I would like to make my point by telling a story about my father, Hank Woodrum, a respected public servant, a career with the U.S. Air Force, the county of Shasta, and the city of Reading. While he was stationed at Keesler Air Force Base, I was in the 9th grade, and I would frequently ride my bike down to the base library to check out some books. My dad would always ask me to check out something for him. I objected, saying, "I don't know what you like." Eventually, I figured out what he liked. But eventually, I realized here he was, responsible for hundreds of people and a vast array of military equipment, and he still found time to read. Reading was that important to him. Ladies and gentlemen, the practice of reading is almost essential to a successful life. Now, the Friends of the Intermountain Library have done their homework. Burney is a small, hard-working town that has nevertheless raised $76,000 in pledges. 2 service clubs have offered $25,000 to support a new children's section. The McConnell Foundation has stepped up. The city of Reading offers administrative and technical support. I live on Chestnut Street, just 2 blocks from these chambers, and yet I intend to donate to the library as well. In conclusion, I urge the board to release the allocated windmill money and support the new Burney Library. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the press I have to speak, so we will move it to Mr. Lees.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Modi, members of the Board of Supervisors. It is my recommendation that we go forward with the purchase at a price that will be discussed in closed session, and also with the terms that will be spelled out in the purchase agreement and/or escrow, whatever we need to do. The Board of Supervisors took action to allocate $400,000, put that as set aside to go towards the funding of a library in Burney, of a new library in Burney. And that was subject to being last in, a term that we've heard before. At a time when it is brought forward that there's adequate funding to complete the entire project, that's when we go forward and submit the $400,000. I believe that FOIL, Friends of the Intermountain Library, FOIL, have reached the point to where they believe the entire project can be completed. So that's why my recommendation is to go forward. Again, go forward with terms that will be spelled out in the purchase agreement. We have two appraisals that have come forward, and one of them was in July of 2018 for $275,000. There was another appraisal, updated appraisal that came forward in February of 2019. There was a couple changes. That appraisal brought the current value based on that appraisal to $300,000. Mentioned in there was a couple added comparisons done, one from Anderson and one from Cottonwood, and then also they mentioned in that appraisal the potential issues with the leaking roof and the leaking window. Or it might be windows, I'm not sure. Also, there was a discussion with entering into an MOU with the City of Reading. The City of Reading has indicated they believe they can perform the outside ADA work that is required. We talked about entering into an MOU. There wasn't perfect alignment on what that MOU should do or say. However, the City of Reading has agreed to perform all necessary work on the outside of the library, bringing it up to ADA standards, and they actually are willing to do that while in escrow or prior to the county taking ownership. So this discussion I had with City Manager Barry Tippin, and he indicated he wouldn't do that. He said that it does not matter. I saw Kim shaking her head, so I wanted to clarify. He said that it doesn't matter to them because FOIL is going to be paying for the work to be done by the City of Reading. So he said it wouldn't matter whether it's done during the escrow or after, it would make a difference to them. So the MOU becomes kind of a moot point. We don't need to have an MOU because part of our terms of agreement, I would recommend, is that the facility meets the ADA requirements as stated by county, state, and federal law. As it relates to the back porch, whether we could put a sign up and that eliminates all liability from state and federal ADA codes, I'm not sure. But what we would do in the terms of our agreement, in the purchase agreement, is say it needs to meet all state and federal codes. So if it meets that, then we'll go forward. And again, I think if there was some additional funding needing, as you've heard today, that FOIL, through some of their fundraising, as well as the McConnell Foundation's generous contribution, there would be funding to complete some added things if needed to happen. FOIL has also agreed to, through volunteers through the community, contractors, etc., to take on some of the work of the ADA required inside the building. We had our staff go through and take a look at it. It looked pretty basic of the ADA requirements that needed to be adjusted within the building, so we think that's certainly possible for them to do. And we, again, that would be part of the terms of the agreement, that they meet that. The exception to that would be the fire alarms and the emergency things that the county would actually be responsible for, and we've included that within that $400,000. So we would take up, the county would take on responsibility to make sure the fire alarms and things like that meet ADA and are appropriate. But the things, and we're talking, and this won't be exactly right, but we're talking about maybe the toilet paper dispenser not high enough, or padding under the sink or something like that. Those again aren't exact, but those are the things that FOIL and their volunteer group have determined that they could do. And so again, my recommendation is that we go forward. Again, the purchase price will be determined in closed session. That is one thing that is allowed to talk about because it's a negotiation of real property. So what the board determines based on the appraisals that we receive would be the purchase price. And then the terms of the agreement itself, whether it be escrow instructions or purchase agreement with the owner, would be that the building is going to meet all state, federal, county ADA requirements. And certainly we want to include an inspection on the roof and leak, as the appraisal indicated there could be a problem with that. And at the conclusion of those things meeting, then we could certainly close that, close the escrow or finalize the purchase agreement. That would be my recommendation going forward.
Supervisor Ricker.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for their compelling comments today. I was really impressed with the incredible memories that all of you have as children. That's great. They're great storytellers. Anyway, and there's really no place like the Intermountain area, I have to agree. And when the community decides to pull together, they know how to pull together in a very positive way. So I've been really impressed with that. And I agree that there is a need for larger area for the library itself, the lack of meeting rooms, and that is a real challenge. And I've been to the Burney Library several times over the last 31 years I've lived up there, and there is a need for larger facility. And something that's more centrally located too. I think the location of the new building that they're proposing is a good location. So I just wanted to say that I'm in support of this project, and I'm hoping that my other supervisors will be in agreement. So any comments?
Supervisor Ball.
Thank you, Chair Modi. And Supervisor Rickard, I just have to say I thank you for your bold leadership on this. It makes, frankly, to me, it makes all the difference in the world that the supervisor representing the district steps out front and says that I'm supportive of this effort. I know you've taken a lot of time to go through the process. Mr. Lees, I want to thank you as well for taking the time to outline a positive move forward. I think that together we can make this lighthouse of literacy happen. I stole that from you, yes.
We will be hearing that again.
A great concept for the community. So I'm just to clarify, in your presentation, Mr. Lees, what you're saying is that with your recommendation comes a requirement that the county, before we make that and finalize escrow, that the various groups involved, including FOIL, City of Reading, whatever agreements, our own county stuff, that those things are completed prior to closing escrow, so we know we have a building that meets all of our requirements, just like any other purchase. We would make sure that those things are not just adequate, but that they meet all legal requirements. And is that correct?
Correct, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I guess the one disclaimer to that would be the potential for the county alarm system. We're okay with closing the escrow and purchase agreement before we finalize the county alarm system.
Okay.
We want them to complete all the work before we go in there and do the things we committed to do.
So I guess I would find some comfort in hearing from the president of FOIL that they as a group have discussed that concept and understand the requirement that you're saying publicly. Yes, we're going to meet that requirement, and we don't have a problem with that. Is that a problem, Chairman Modi?
No, it's not.
At the right time, because
yeah, to have a new supervisor.
Sure. Yeah, I can.
Okay. Supervisor Burney.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a comment because I'm kind of new to this portion. My first concern is always public safety. I am all about, I raised 4 boys, sending them to the library was very important. I have great memories from my childhood. But when looking at what's most important to me, it's of course the safety of the children, and then the next thing would be certainly the literacy of the children. That being said, I am in support of this concept and of this purchase. I think we have to, and I'm speaking to all these very aware and astute individuals in Intermountain. We do have an issue with public safety. We may come back to you at some point in time and ask you to support us in helping us deal with that issue. That is something that's very important. I want to make sure that the gentleman who rode his bicycle, I think it was Willie, who rode his bicycle across the street and was looking for cars, isn't being chased by anybody. They shouldn't be there. So I just want to put that on the record that public safety is very important, but certainly providing a place where children can experience books and just having grown up and there's a certain smell that goes with books that just make that an enjoyable experience, and certainly access to the internet, which I think is so critically important for kids to be competitive today in education. I am in support of this.
Supervisor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too appreciate everybody that came forward and gave their story about their literacy and going to the library. And I'm a big fan of the library myself in the city of Shasta Lake, which I live. We have our own little library there, and I'm constantly reading a book and giving them books and that type of thing. And I think that's an important part of the community to keep the library filled with books. And I've mentioned to Ms. Peel that first 5 Shasta